The Apache AH-64 attack helicopter hung in the night sky above Cedar Ridge Country Club like an angel of reckoning, its searchlights cutting through the ballroom's floor-to-ceiling windows. Crystal champagne flutes shattered on marble floors. Designer heels stumbled backward. The thunder of rotors drowned out the reunion's carefully curated playlist. 10 years ago, in this same ballroom, they had cornered him near those windows. Blake Harrison had poured punch over his thrift store suit while 200 classmates laughed. Madison Pierce had live-streamed his humiliation. They'd called him Dog Boy, the pathetic loser who shared lunch with a limping stray. Now those same faces pressed against the glass, recognition dawning in their terrified eyes. "Dear God," someone whispered. "Is that Kai Renders?" The boy they'd broken hadn't just survived. He'd returned in a war machine worth $30 million, piloting death itself. Sometimes the weakest among us become the strongest of all. Before we continue, please leave a like and let me know which city you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story. Cedar Ridge, Colorado sat nestled in the Rocky Mountains like a jewel of privilege, where ski lodges outnumbered homeless shelters 50-1, and where high school hierarchies lasted lifetimes. In this town of 10,000 souls, everyone knew your name, your father's income, and exactly where you belonged in the social order. Kai Renders had never belonged anywhere. At 28, he carried himself with a quiet strength that hadn't existed in the skinny, frightened boy who'd once walked these streets. 5'11", lean muscle earned through military discipline, eyes that had seen too much yet somehow retained their kindness. His hands, once soft from library books, now bore the calluses of helicopter controls and rifle grips. 4 years in the Army had transformed him into something his tormentors never imagined: a decorated chief warrant officer, pilot of the most lethal helicopter in America's arsenal. Beside him, always, walked Frost. The German shepherd stood 3 feet tall, 70 pounds of trained muscle and devotion. His left eye, clouded white from old trauma, gave him an almost mystical appearance. At 7 years old, Frost wore his scars like medals: a torn ear, a slight limp that emerged only when tired, the invisible wounds of a dog who'd seen combat both military and civilian. Blake Harrison had been Cedar Ridge royalty, 6'2", quarterback smile, father who owned 3 car dealerships. At 28, that smile had curdled into something desperate. The golden boy was tarnished brass, now divorced, drinking heavily, selling real estate badly. His hands shook until noon. His father was dead. The dealership sold to pay debts, and his younger brother Ryan sat in a wheelchair because of a war Blake had mocked. Madison. Pierce Madison Cartwright had been the crown jewel of their graduating class. Blonde, beautiful, cruel in that casual way of those who'd never suffered. Now she covered bruises with foundation and explained away black eyes as tennis accidents. Her ex-husband, a Denver investment banker, had taught her what real cruelty looked like. Nathan Walsh existed only in memories and photographs now. He'd been the anomaly, wealthy enough to be popular, kind enough to defend the weak. His death at 18 had left a void that haunted Cedar Ridge like a ghost. Colonel Marcus Thompson commanded Fort Carson's aviation brigade. At 45, he'd become the father Kai never had, recognizing something in the young man that deserved cultivation. And Grace Walsh, Nathan's mother, still lived in the same Victorian house, still set 3 places for dinner, still talked to her son's photograph each morning while feeding the birds he'd loved. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday morning at Fort Carson, delivered alongside official military correspondence and care packages from grateful civilians. Kai had been reviewing flight logs in the ready room when Specialist Martinez handed him the cream-colored envelope, his name written in pretentious calligraphy across expensive paper. "Fancy mail, Chief," Martinez said, but his smile faded when he saw Kai's face drain of color. The Cedar Ridge postmark struck him like a physical blow. 10 years of distance collapsed in an instant. Frost, who'd been sleeping beneath the desk, suddenly raised his head, nostrils flaring at the familiar scent embedded in paper that had traveled from their shared nightmare. Kai's hand, steady enough to pilot an Apache through enemy fire, trembled as he opened it. "You are cordially invited to Cedar Ridge High School's 10-year reunion. We especially hope you'll attend. Kai." Everyone is dying to see how far you've progressed, or haven't. Blake Harrison and the planning committee have prepared a special presentation about each classmate's journey. Yours should be particularly memorable. Don't disappoint us again. A handwritten note fell out. Blake's unmistakable scrawl, "Bring the mutt." We saved you both a special place. Frost moved to Kai's side, pressing against his leg the trained response to detected distress. But there was something more in the dog's reaction, a recognition that went beyond training. That whine, low and mournful, the same sound he'd made the day Nathan died. The flashback struck without warning, vivid as incoming fire. Cafeteria, senior year, 2 months before graduation. Kai eating alone as always, reading a worn paperback, trying to disappear. Blake approaching with his crew, Madison filming on her phone. Tyler Sherman and Josh Crawford flanking him like bodyguards. "Hey, dog boy, eating alone again," Blake's voice carrying across the entire cafeteria. "Oh, wait, where's your only friend?" They'd planned it perfectly. Josh accidentally knocked Kai's tray, sending food across his only clean shirt. When Kai stood up, Blake shoved him back down, hard enough to break the bench. The crack echoed through sudden silence. "Stay down, boy. That's what we teach dogs, right?" Blake had grabbed Kai's backpack, dumping 3 years of carefully maintained notebooks into the trash can filled with cafeteria slop. "Fetch, boy. Go fetch your homework." But the worst part hadn't been the physical humiliation. It was Madison stepping forward, voice sweet as poison. "You know, Kai, I was going to ask you to prom as a joke, but honestly, you're not even worth the prank. You're nothing. You'll always be nothing." 200 students, 12 teachers, one principal who happened to walk by. Nobody said a word. Nobody except Nathan, who'd been homesick that day. Chief Renders." Martinez's voice pulled him back. The entire ready room had gone quiet. 5 members of his squadron stood watching. These warriors who'd follow him into hell without question. "You okay, sir?" asked Warrant Officer Jennifer Thompson, the newest pilot he'd been training. Kai started to say yes, that automatic military response. But Frost had moved to his old wooden footlocker, pawing at something. When Kai opened it, the dog carefully extracted a photograph with his teeth, one Kai hadn't looked at in 2 years. Nathan in his baseball uniform, Frost as a younger dog beside him, both grinning at the camera. "That your friend, Chief?" asked Sergeant Williams, their crew chief, a man who'd seen Kai save 6 soldiers under heavy fire without asking about medals. "Was. He died 10 years ago." Kai's voice came out steady, surprising himself. Night of graduation. The room absorbed this information with military understanding. Death was their constant companion. They knew how it shaped survivors. "This about him?" Martinez gestured at the invitation. "No," Kai said quietly, watching Frost settle beside Nathan's photo with infinite care. "It's about them thinking they still own me. They want to see me fail. Want to prove I'm still the worthless kid they tortured for 4 years. But you're not," Thompson said simply. "You're the best pilot in the regiment. You have more confirmed saves than anyone. They don't know that." Kai stood, decision crystallizing like ice. "But maybe it's time they learned." Frost barked once, sharp and clear the sound he made when confirming a target. Williams grinned, all teeth and loyalty. "When do we deploy, Chief?" "It's in 2 weeks," Kai said, looking at his squad, his real family. "And I'm not going alone." The invitation had asked for the boy they'd broken. Instead, they'd get the man forged from those fragments, accompanied by brothers and sisters who understood that strength wasn't about whom you could hurt, but whom you could save. The morning of the reunion, Kai drove his rental truck through Cedar Ridge's winding mountain roads toward Eternal Peace Cemetery. Frost sat beside him, alert and tense. recognizing the route even after a decade. The dog's breathing quickened as they passed familiar landmarks: the old water tower, McKenna's farm, the bridge where teenagers used to drink each one a breadcrumb on the trail to their shared grief. The cemetery gates stood open, wrought iron against granite posts, the same as that horrible June day when Kai had stood here in his only suit, watching them lower Nathan into the ground. He'd been ordered not to attend by Blake's father, but Grace Walsh had personally called him, her voice breaking. "You were his real brother. Kai, please come." Now. October wind scattered golden aspen leaves across the headstones. Kai parked and sat for a moment, hands gripping the wheel. Frost whined, pawing at the door. "I know, boy. We should have come sooner." They walked the familiar path, Frost leading despite his blind eye, until they reached the Walsh family plot. Nathan's headstone stood pristine, fresh flowers at its base, yellow roses, his mother's favorite, not his. Someone tended this grave weekly. "Hello, Nathan," Kai whispered, kneeling. Frost immediately lay down, belly to earth, chin resting on the grave's edge, the same position he'd held for 18 hours after the accident, refusing to leave until animal control had sedated him. "Kai." He turned to find Grace Walsh approaching, carrying more roses. 52 years old, she moved with the careful dignity of someone holding themselves together through pure will. Her eyes, Nathan's eyes, still carried that kindness that had made her son special. "Mrs. Walsh." He stood, uncertain. "Oh, honey." She set down the flowers and pulled him into a fierce embrace. "I've been waiting for you to come home." They stood there, her tears soaking his shoulder, until she pulled back and really looked at him. "My God, you've grown strong. Nathan would be so proud." Her gaze fell to Frost. "Both of you. I should have—" "Stop." Her voice carried maternal authority. "You couldn't have saved him. Nobody could have. Not from Blake Harrison's stupidity and his father's money." The words hit like shrapnel. Blake was driving. Grace's face hardened in a way Kai had never seen. Drunk. .18 blood alcohol. Nathan tried to take his keys at Tyler Sherman's graduation party. Blake punched him, called him a self-righteous pussy. Then when Blake got behind the wheel anyway, Nathan jumped in the passenger seat. Her voice cracked. "He texted me, 'Can't let him hurt innocent people. We'll try to grab the wheel if needed.' But the news said Nathan was driving. Richard Harrison paid off half the police department. 50,000 to the investigating officer, another 100,000 to the coroner. They switched the story, made my boy take the blame for his own death. Said he was the drunk one." Bitter laugh. Nathan, who never had more than one beer in his life. Kai's world tilted. Everything he'd believed for 10 years crumbled. "Why didn't you fight it? With what money against Richard Harrison's lawyers?" She touched Frost's scarred ear tenderly. "Besides, I had something more important to do. This brave boy stayed with Nathan for 18 hours, wouldn't let anyone near the body. Did you know that the paramedics said Frost fought them, trying to protect Nathan even after, the official report said Frost wasn't there. Another Harrison lie. This precious dog crawled from the wreck with a shattered leg and a ruined eye, dragged himself back to guard Nathan. When animal control finally sedated him, he was nearly dead from blood loss. I spent $20,000 I didn't have saving him because I knew Nathan would want me to get him to you." She reached into her purse, pulling out an envelope yellowed with age. "Nathan wrote this the week before he died, like he knew something was coming. He made me promise to give it to you when you were ready. I think you're ready now." Kai's hands shook taking the letter. His name was written in Nathan's careful script. Inside, 2 pages of the handwriting he'd recognize anywhere. "Kai, if you're reading this, something's happened to me. Don't blame yourself. Please, brother, don't carry guilt for my choices. I know what Blake's becoming: the alcohol, the rage, the cocaine his father pretends doesn't exist. I've watched him destroy everything he touches. Madison's already showing bruises she blames on volleyball. Tyler's dealing drugs to afford Blake's friendship. The whole town pretends not to see because Richard Harrison owns their mortgages. I'm not going to let him kill someone. If I can't stop him any other way, I'll stop him with my body. One life for potentially many. Mom will understand eventually. She's stronger than she looks. But you, Kai, you have to live. You have to become the man I know you can be. Not for revenge, never for revenge, but to prove that goodness can grow from cruelty. That strength isn't measured in who you can hurt, but who you can heal. I'm leaving you, Frost. I've been training him in secret, teaching him to find you if something happens to me. He knows you're sent from the jacket you left at my house. He'll protect you like I tried to. He'll be the brother I can't be anymore. Don't come back to Cedar Ridge for them. But when you do come back, and you will, because you're braver than you know, come back as yourself. Not to prove anything, not to show them anything, just to close the circle and walk away free. Forgiveness isn't about them deserving it. It's about you deserving peace. Blake will destroy himself without any help. Madison will learn what real pain feels like. The others will live their small lives in their small town, getting smaller every year. But you're going to soar. I know it. I've always known it. Tell Frost I said to take care of you. He already knows, but tell him anyway. Your brother, always, Nathan P.S. When you become the hero I know you'll be. Remember the scared kid in the cafeteria. He's the reason you'll save others. Our pain becomes our purpose if we let it. Kai read it twice. Tears he hadn't shed in a decade streaming down his face. Frost had moved to lean against him, the dog's weight solid and comforting. He saved at least 3 families that night, Grace said softly. Blake was heading toward the farmer's market road, where the Hendersons were driving home with their new baby. Where the Martinez family was returning from graduation dinner, Nathan grabbed the wheel at the last second, sent them into the embankment instead. The crash investigator, the real one, before they paid him off, said Nathan's action prevented a head-on collision. Why are you telling me this now? Grace cupped his face in her hands, maternal and fierce. Because tonight, when you walk into that reunion, I want you to know who you really are. Not the victim they remember, not even the soldier you've become. You're the brother of a hero, chosen by him to carry on. Frost isn't just a dog, honey. He's Nathan's last gift. His way of making sure you were never alone again. Mrs. Walsh, there's more. She glanced toward the parking lot where a familiar truck had just pulled in. Blake's brother Ryan wants to meet you. He has something you need to hear before tonight. Ryan Harrison wheeled himself toward them, and Kai saw Blake's features reformed by suffering into something softer, more honest. The 24-year-old stopped before Nathan's grave, placing a single white rose among the yellow ones. Chief Renders, Ryan said, voice steady despite the tears on his face. I was 14 when Nathan died. I worshipped my brother then, believed his version of everything. It took me years and a war to understand what really happened. He looked up at Kai. I need you to know something before tonight. I'm the one who made sure you got that invitation, not for Blake's sick game, but because it's time for truth. Blake and his friends think they're surprising you, humiliating you one last time. They have this whole presentation planned, photos, videos, a "Where Are They Now" mockery segment. But they don't know I've invited others. Nathan's real friends from college who knew the truth. The paramedics who were first on scene. The original investigator who kept copies of everything before he was paid off. Ryan's smile was sharp as winter. And I sure as hell didn't tell them you were bringing a squad of Army Rangers who've seen you save lives under fire. Frost moved to Ryan's wheelchair, sniffing carefully, then did something Kai had never seen him do with strangers. He placed his head in Ryan's lap, offering comfort. He knows, Grace said simply. Dogs always know the good ones. Kai looked at these people, Nathan's mother, Blake's brother, his loyal dog, and felt something shift inside him. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It never had been. We're not going there to destroy Blake, Kai said carefully. No, Ryan agreed. We're going there to free everyone from the lies, Blake most of all. He's drinking himself to death. Chief, the guilt is eating him alive. He needs to confess, needs to be forgiven, or he'll be dead within a year. Grace took both young men's hands. Nathan believed in redemption, even for Blake, especially for Blake. That's why he got in that car, not just to save innocent strangers, but to save Blake from becoming a murderer. The sun broke through the clouds, illuminating Nathan's headstone. Frost barked once, tail wagging for the first time since they'd arrived, as if Nathan himself had given permission for what came next. Okay, Kai said, feeling the weight of the moment. We do this Nathan's way. Truth, not vengeance. Healing, not humiliation. That's why you'll win, Grace said softly. Because you're fighting for something better than they are. As they prepared to leave, Kai noticed fresh tire tracks near Nathan's grave, motorcycle tracks. Blake had been here recently, probably drunk, possibly crying. The roses weren't just from Grace, some were wilted, left by clumsy hands at odd hours. Even monsters, it seemed, could grieve for what they'd destroyed. Part A. Preparing for confrontation. Colonel Marcus Thompson sat behind his desk at Fort Carson, studying the young man he'd mentored for 3 years. Outside his office window, Apache helicopters ran training drills against the Colorado mountains, their shadows dancing across the parade ground. He'd seen Kai Renders evolve from a traumatized recruit into one of the finest pilots in the Army, but he'd never seen him like this, wound tight as piano wire, yet strangely calm. "You're sure about this, son?" Thompson asked, though he already knew the answer. Taking military aircraft to a civilian event requires paperwork that, already filed, sir. Transportation request for community relations demonstration. Mayor Hendricks approved it. His son serves in the 4th Infantry. He knows what I did in Kandahar. Thompson leaned back, studying Kai with those eyes that had seen too much war. This isn't about impressing old classmates with military hardware. No, sir. Kai met his gaze steadily. It's about closing a chapter. My squad volunteered to accompany me, not as a show of force, but as witnesses. These are men and women I've bled with, saved, been saved by. They know who I really am. That matters more than any revenge. And the dog. Thompson gestured to Frost, who sat at perfect attention beside Kai's chair. He needs this as much as I do. He lost his first handler that night. Nathan Walsh was his world before I was. Thompson opened his desk drawer, pulling out a thick folder marked Renders, K, Service Record. Says here you've been credited with 47 lives saved under direct fire, 2 silver stars, Bronze Star with Valor, 4 Purple Hearts. You've never once mentioned your hometown in 3 years of service. He closed the folder. Whatever happened there made you who you are. They tried to break me, sir. Almost succeeded. But they didn't. No, sir. Nathan Walsh wouldn't let them, even dead. He wouldn't let them. A knock interrupted them. Warrant Officer Jennifer Thompson entered with Sergeants Williams and Martinez, along with Specialists Cooper, Chen, and Johnson Kai's regular crew plus volunteers from the squadron. Chief, Williams said, grinning, Apache is fueled and ready. We've also got Rodriguez, Patterson, and Mitchell wanting to join the flight. That's 12 total, if you'll have us. This isn't a mission, Kai reminded them. There's no obligation. With respect, Chief, Chen interrupted, unusual for the normally quiet communications specialist. You jumped into a burning Humvee to pull me out in Helmand. Martinez here watched you carry Patterson 2 miles under sniper fire. We all have stories like that. You think we're letting you face your demons alone? Thompson stood, moving to his window to watch the Apaches. Kai, there's something you should know. I pulled some strings, made some calls. Richard Harrison Blake's father died in federal prison 6 months ago. Tax evasion, embezzlement, bribing federal officers. The FBI found evidence of the cover-up regarding Nathan Walsh's death during their investigation. Kai absorbed this slowly. Blake knows. Public record. Lost everything. The dealerships, the house, the reputation. From what I gather, Blake Harrison is living in a trailer behind McKenna's farm, working odd jobs when sober enough. Jesus, Williams muttered. How the mighty fall. The thing about pedestals, Thompson said quietly, is that the higher you stand, the farther you fall. You were never on a pedestal. Kai, you started at the bottom. Everything since has been climbing. Martinez pulled out his phone, showing Kai a photo. My cousin still lives in Cedar Ridge. Says they've got this whole reunion set up at the country club. Black tie, $500 a plate. Open bar. They're expecting maybe 200 people. They're expecting to crucify me. Kai said simply. Ryan Harrison told me they have a presentation planned. Videos from high school. Photos. Probably a comedy roast about the dog boy and where he ended up. They have no idea where you ended up, Jennifer Thompson said firmly. But they're about to learn. Kai turned to his squad. I need you to understand these people made my life hell for 4 years. They might say things, do things that are cruel. I don't want anyone defending me with violence. Violence? Cooper laughed, the sound rich with irony. Chief, we're professional soldiers. We don't need violence to make a point. Our presence alone will say everything. Williams pulled out a garment bag. Got your dress uniform ready, Chief? Every ribbon, every medal. Let them see what you earned while they were getting drunk at State College. That's not what this is about. No, Chen agreed. But it doesn't hurt. My grandmother always said the best revenge is a life well lived, visible to those who doubted you. Frost stood, moving to each soldier in turn, sniffing their hands as if inspecting the troops. When he returned to Kai's side, his tail wagged once approval given. There's one more thing, Thompson said, returning to his desk. I had a conversation with Grace Walsh, Nathan's mother. She told me about the letter Nathan left you, about forgiveness being the ultimate goal. He paused. That's admirable, son, but forgiveness doesn't mean you have to absorb more abuse. You show up, you speak your truth, and you leave. Don't let them pull you back into their small, cruel world. Roger that, sir. As they prepared to leave, Thompson handed Kai an envelope. One more passenger. Staff Sergeant Ryan Harrison requested emergency leave to attend a family event. Seems his brother needs an intervention, and Ryan thinks tonight might be the only chance to save Blake's life. Ryan's coming with us. If you'll allow it, he's at the airfield, waiting for your word. Kai looked at his squad, at Frost, at the man who'd become his military father. Nathan would want Blake saved, not destroyed. Then let's go save him, Williams said, surprising everyone with his sincerity. Even assholes deserve redemption, I guess. Part B. The reunion begins. Blake Harrison stood in the country club bathroom, staring at his reflection in the gilt-framed mirror. His hands shook as he tried to straighten his father's old bow tie, the only decent thing he had left after selling everything else for rent and whiskey. The fluorescent lights revealed what his friends politely ignored: broken blood vessels across his nose, premature lines carved by alcohol and guilt, the yellow tinge in his eyes that suggested his liver was beginning to fail. You look like shit, he told his reflection, then laughed bitterly. The golden boy of Cedar Ridge, reduced to this organizing a pathetic revenge scheme against someone who probably wouldn't even show up. The bathroom door opened. Tyler Sherman entered, still broad from his football days, but soft now, selling insurance and cocaine with equal enthusiasm. Blake, man, you good. People are asking for you. Yeah, just... Blake splashed water on his face. Is he here yet? Kinda. Told you he wouldn't show. Why would he? Probably living in some trailer park, too embarrassed to face us. Blake wanted to agree, but something gnawed at him. The invitation had been returned with a simple RSVP. Will attend, K, Renders, no +1, no details. Just those 3 words in military-precise handwriting. They walked back to the ballroom together. The space gleamed with false elegance, crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, a stage with a massive LED screen ready for the entertainment. 200 of Cedar Ridge's finest pretended not to notice Blake's slight stumble, his need to grip chairbacks for balance. Madison Pierce stood near the bar, stunning in a black dress that cost more than Blake's monthly income. Her new boyfriend, some Denver lawyer, kept a possessive hand on her lower back. She caught Blake's eye and smiled, that same cruel smile from high school, though something behind it seemed broken now. Blake. She glided over, air-kissing his cheek. This is so exciting. I can't wait to see Kai's face when he sees what we prepared. Yeah, Blake managed, though his stomach churned. The presentation had seemed hilarious when drunk a compilation of Kai's most humiliating moments. The cafeteria incident, the prom rejection, even footage of him eating lunch with that mangy dog. Now, sober enough to think clearly. It felt like something else. Something worse. Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Crawford had taken the microphone, still playing hype man after all these years. Welcome to Cedar Ridge High's 10-year reunion. Before we get started with dinner, Blake Harrison has prepared something special, a tribute to all our classmates, especially those who couldn't quite make it in the real world. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Everyone knew about the Kai Renders presentation. It had been the talk of the town for weeks how they'd finally put that weird kid in his place once and for all. Blake moved toward the stage, each step feeling like walking toward his own execution. The screen behind him lit up with the title, From Zero to Still Zero, the Kai Renders story. The first image appeared Kai at 14, skinny and terrified, being shoved into a locker. The crowd laughed. Madison had her phone out, recording for social media. The second image, Kai eating alone while others threw food at him. More laughter, though some looked uncomfortable now. The third, the cafeteria incident. Blake watching his younger self pour punch over Kai's head felt like watching someone else, someone he despised. The crowd's laughter sounded forced now. "Turn it off," a voice said from the back. Everyone turned. An elderly woman stood in the doorway, not a reunion guest, but someone everyone recognized. Helen Morrison, who'd taught English for 30 years, who'd retired early after the incident nobody talked about. "Mrs. Morrison," Madison's voice pitched high with surprise. "I said, turn it off." The old woman walked forward, steel in her spine. "I stood by and did nothing when you tortured that boy. I let administration silence me when I tried to report it. I've lived with that shame for 10 years, but I will not stand here and watch you do it again." "It's just fun," Tyler started. "Fun. Mrs. Morrison's voice could still command a classroom. "Nathan Walsh died because of your fun. Blake knows it. You all know it." The room went silent. Blake felt the blood drain from his face. "Nathan's death was an accident," Madison said, but her voice wavered. "Nathan's death was a murder-suicide of conscience," Mrs. Morrison said. "He chose to die rather than let Blake drive drunk into innocent families. And you all covered it up, bought silence with Harrison money. Because facing the truth would have meant facing what you all were, bullies who drove a good boy to sacrifice himself to save others from your cruelty." Blake's legs gave out. He sat heavily on the stage steps, the microphone falling from nerveless fingers. In the silence, everyone could hear his ragged breathing. "He's not coming," Blake said, more to himself than anyone. "Kai's not coming because he's better than this. Better than us. He always was." "Oh, he's coming," Mrs. Morrison said, and there was something like pride in her voice, but not the way you expected. Part C. The Apache Approach. 20 miles out from Cedar Ridge, the Apache AH-64 flew low through the mountain passes, its running lights cutting through the October dusk. Inside the cramped cockpit, Kai held the controls steady while Jennifer Thompson monitored instruments from the gunner's position. Behind them, A Black Hawk carried the rest of the volunteers, Ryan Harrison among them. Cedar Ridge Country Club, 2 minutes out, Thompson reported. You sure about this approach vector? Roger. We're coming in from the north, over the reservoir. Same path Nathan and I used to hike. Kai's voice remained steady through the headset. Frost okay back there? In the Black Hawk. Williams keyed his mic. Your dog's doing better than Ryan. Kid looks ready to jump out and run the rest of the way. Ryan's voice crackled through. I haven't seen Blake in 6 months. He stopped returning my calls after Dad died. I'm scared of what we'll find. We'll find someone who needs help, Kai said simply. That's all that matters. The country club appeared ahead, its lights a beacon against the darkening mountains. Through the Apache's magnification system, Kai could see the parking lot full of expensive cars, the ballroom's floor-to-ceiling windows glowing gold. Jesus, Thompson muttered. Is that a crowd gathering outside? It was. Someone had spotted the helicopter's approach, word spreading quickly through the reunion. People streamed out onto the country club's manicured lawn, phones raised to record the impossible sight. Military aircraft requesting civilian landing clearance. Kai radioed to the local aviation frequency, following protocol. Country Club North Lawn, Community Relations Demonstration. Apache flight. You're cleared. Wind calm. Area secure. The controller's voice carried awe. Welcome home, Chief Renders. Kai smiled grimly. Even the air traffic controller knew his name, knew his story. Small towns never forgot their casualties or their resurrections. Take us down easy, he told Thompson. This isn't a combat insertion. Roger that, though the looks on their faces suggest otherwise. The Apache descended slowly, deliberately, its rotor wash sending autumn leaves swirling in golden cyclones. The Black Hawk held position, waiting for the Apache to land first. Kai could see everything through the canopy. Blake collapsed on the lawn, Madison with her hands over her mouth, Tyler Sherman backing away as if from a predator. The landing skids touched grass soft as a whisper. Through the windscreen, Kai saw them, all the faces that had haunted his nightmares, now twisted with shock and something else. Fear, awe. He couldn't tell, didn't care. His focus narrowed to one figure, Blake Harrison, on his knees in his ill-fitting tuxedo, looking up at the war machine that had brought his victim home. Ready, Chief? Thompson asked. Kai looked at the photo taped to his instrument panel, Nathan in his baseball uniform, that easy smile that had made even the worst days bearable. Beside it, a new photo, his squad after the Kandahar mission, all alive because of each other. Frost in the center, like their mascot. Yeah, he said, beginning the shutdown sequence. I'm ready. The Black Hawk landed beside them, disgorging soldiers in dress uniforms. Ryan Harrison's wheelchair was lowered carefully, Williams and Martinez flanking him protectively. Frost jumped down last, his trained composure evident in every movement. The reunion had expected the class loser. Instead, they'd gotten something else entirely, a reckoning delivered on rotor blades, a chance for redemption arriving in machines built for war but carrying hope for peace. The engines wound down to silence. In that quiet, Kai could hear his heart beating steady as a drum, strong as the mountains surrounding this town that had tried to break him. Time to face the past, time to free the future. He opened the canopy and prepared to step into his history, not as victim or victor, but as something more powerful, a survivor who'd learned to save others, including those who'd tried to destroy him. The Apache's rotor blades had barely stopped spinning when Kai unbuckled his harness and removed his flight helmet. Through the canopy glass, he could see the crowd pressing closer, some recording with phones, others standing frozen in disbelief. The country club's floodlights illuminated everything in stark relief, the military aircraft on manicured lawn, soldiers in dress uniforms forming a respectful line, and at the center of it all, Blake Harrison still on his knees, staring up at the machine that had shattered his cruel fantasy. Kai climbed down with practiced ease, his dress uniform immaculate beneath his flight vest. 4 years of military bearing had transformed his posture, no longer the hunched shoulders of a boy trying to disappear, but the straight spine of a man who'd learned to carry others through hell. His boots touched the grass with deliberate precision. Frost jumped from the Black Hawk and immediately moved to Kai's side, the German shepherd's scarred face scanning the crowd with trained vigilance. When his one good eye landed on Blake, the dog went absolutely still, not aggressive, but alert, recognizing the scent of old danger mixed with fresh desperation. "Dear God," someone whispered. "Look at him." The crowd parted as Kai walked forward, his squad flanking him in perfect formation. Williams and Martinez pushed Ryan's wheelchair, the younger Harrison brother in his dress blues, Purple Heart visible among his decorations. Jennifer Thompson walked beside them, her pilot wings catching the light. Chen, Cooper, Johnson, Rodriguez, Patterson, Mitchell, all in their finest uniforms, all wearing the 1,000-yard stare of those who'd seen real conflict, not the petty cruelties of small-town hierarchies. Through the ballroom's open doors, Kai could see the LED screen still cycling through images of his humiliation. His 15-year-old face, twisted in pain. His 17-year-old self, eating lunch alone with a stray dog. The cafeteria incident, playing on loop. But now, juxtaposed against the reality of his return, the images looked different, not funny but shameful, not entertainment but evidence of systematic cruelty. Blake struggled to his feet, swaying slightly. "Kai." His voice cracked like adolescent uncertainty. "Is that really? Hello, Blake." Kai's voice carried calm authority, neither aggressive nor weak. "You invited me? I came." Madison Pierce pushed through the crowd, her designer dress and perfect makeup unable to hide the shock draining color from her face. She stopped 3 feet from Kai, mouth opening and closing without sound. Her new boyfriend tried to pull her back, but she shook him off, staring at the transformation before her. "You're military," she managed. "Chief Warrant Officer Kai Renders," Williams announced formally. "Apache pilot, 4th Combat Aviation Brigade, 2 Silver Stars, Bronze Star with Valor, 4 Purple Hearts, 47 confirmed lives saved under enemy fire." The words landed like artillery shells. Someone dropped a champagne glass, the shatter punctuating the silence. "That's not possible," Tyler Sherman said from somewhere in the crowd. He was nobody. He was weak." Ryan Harrison's voice cut through like a blade. "He was 19 when he pulled 3 soldiers from a burning vehicle in Kandahar, including me. I was nobody to him, just another private who made a stupid mistake. He ran through machine gun fire, already wounded, and dragged me to safety. Tell me again how weak he is." Blake's legs gave out again, but this time Kai stepped forward, catching his former tormentor's arm, holding him steady. The contact sent a visible shudder through Blake's body. "I don't understand," Blake whispered, and Kai could smell the bourbon on his breath, see the yellow in his eyes up close. "You were supposed to, You thought I'd fail," Kai said simply. "You needed me to fail, to justify what you did. But Nathan wouldn't let me fail, even dead. He wouldn't let me give up." At Nathan's name, Blake made a sound like a wounded animal. Behind them, the video montage had stopped, someone finally having the decency to kill it. But the silence was worse than mockery, 200 people forced to confront the gap between their assumptions and reality. Chief Renders, Mrs. Morrison stepped forward, the elderly teacher's eyes bright with tears. "I owe you an apology. I failed you when you needed an adult to intervene. I let them silence me. Let administration prioritize the Harrison donations over your safety. I've regretted it every day since." "You tried," Kai said gently. "I remember. You tried to report it junior year. They threatened your pension. That's no excuse. It's done, Mrs. Morrison. We can't change the past." Kai's gaze swept the crowd, finding familiar faces twisted with uncomfortable recognition. "Any of it." Frost suddenly moved, breaking from his heel position to approach Blake. The crowd gasped, some stepping back, but the dog simply sat before Blake and raised one paw, a trained greeting, not an attack. Blake stared at the offered paw, tears streaming down his face. He doesn't remember me as a threat. Blake choked out. After everything, he remembers. Kai said, he just knows you're not that person anymore. Dogs sense change better than humans. The presentation, Madison said suddenly, her voice high and panicked. Blake, the presentation. We have to leave it, Kai commanded, and his military authority made even Madison freeze. Let everyone see what you planned. Let them see what 10 years of distance looks like. You're still here, planning to mock someone's pain, while I've been pulling people from burning vehicles. He paused. While Nathan's been dead because nobody would take Blake's keys. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Josh Crawford tried to slip away toward the parking lot, but found William standing casually in his path. Other reunion guests began backing away from Blake. The social distance they'd maintained from Kai now reversed. That's not Nathan was driving, someone started. No! Ryan's voice carried military steel now. My brother was driving drunk. Nathan died trying to stop him from killing innocent families. Our father paid to cover it up. I have the original police reports, the real autopsy, the witness statements before they were changed. Nathan Walsh died a hero, and my brother has been drinking himself to death over it ever since. Blake collapsed completely now, on his knees on the perfect grass, sobbing with the abandonment of someone who'd held it in too long. I'm sorry. God. Nathan. I'm so sorry. I killed you. I killed the only good person in this whole fucking town. The crowd recoiled from the rawness of his confession, but Kai knelt beside him, uniform creasing in the grass. Blake, look at me. When Blake raised his head, Kai saw not the golden boy who'd tormented him, but a broken man carrying unbearable guilt. Nathan chose to get in your car, Kai said steadily. He knew what might happen. He wrote me a letter the week before, like he saw it coming. He chose to save those families. He chose to try to save you from becoming a murderer. I am a murderer. You're an alcoholic who made a terrible decision that someone else paid for. There's a difference. Kai stood, offering Blake his hand. Nathan believed everyone deserved redemption, even you, especially you. Blake stared at the offered hand like it might burn him. Around them. The reunion crowd watched in stunned silence, some recording, others crying, most simply processing the complete inversion of their expectations. Madison laughed, sharp and bitter. This is insane. You're forgiving him after everything he did to you, after we all... She stopped, seeming to hear her own words. After you all what? Jennifer Thompson stepped forward, and though she was smaller than Madison, her presence filled more space. After you tortured a child for 4 years, after you drove him to consider suicide? Yeah, Chief Renders told us everything during long flights. How you pretended to ask him to prom just to humiliate him. How you live-streamed his pain for entertainment. You want to compare traumas. Lady, I've seen this man run into buildings full of hostels to save strangers. What have you done except marry money and perpetuate cruelty? Madison's boyfriend tried to intervene. Now wait a minute. Sir, Martinez said calmly, I'd advise you to step back. This isn't your fight. And trust me, you don't want it to be. The boyfriend looked at the soldiers, all standing easy but ready, all carrying themselves with lethal capability, and retreated. You want to know the difference between Kai and the rest of you, Ryan said, his voice carrying across the lawn. When I was bleeding out in Afghanistan, terrified and alone, he didn't ask who I was or where I came from. He just saw someone who needed saving. That's what heroes do. They save people, even the ones who don't deserve it. Blake finally took Kai's hand, letting himself be pulled to his feet. The contact seemed to break something in him, or maybe fix something that had been broken too long. I don't deserve forgiveness, Blake whispered. No one deserves forgiveness, Kai replied. That's what makes it powerful. It's a gift, not a payment. Frost moved between them, tail wagging once, and in that moment, the power dynamic that had defined their youth completely shattered. The victim had become the savior. The tormentor had become the broken one. and everyone watching was forced to reconsider everything they thought they knew about strength and weakness. "The real question," Kai said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "is what happens next. Do we stay trapped in who we were at 18, or do we choose to become something better?" The challenge hung in the air as the October wind picked up, carrying the scent of autumn and change, while 200 people stood witness to the kind of redemption they'd only seen in movies, made real by a man they'd tried to destroy and the dog who'd refused to let him fall. Blake Harrison stood trembling in his father's old tuxedo, the fabric hanging loose on his alcohol-ravaged frame. The crowd had formed a circle around them now, phones lowered, recording forgotten in the face of raw human collapse. His confession about Nathan had opened a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. "You don't understand," Blake said, his voice breaking apart like ice in spring. "It wasn't just that night. It was everything. Everything I touched. Everything I was." He looked at his hands as if they belonged to someone else. "My father knew. He knew I was driving. Saw me leave Tyler's party with the keys in my hand. Nathan trying to stop me. Dad said, 'Let him learn his lesson.' Except Nathan learned it instead." Ryan wheeled himself closer to his brother. "Tell them the rest." "Blake, tell them what Dad did after." Blake laughed, the sound sharp and wrong. "He made it disappear. 50,000 to Detective Morrison, no relation to you, Mrs. Morrison. Another 100 grand to the coroner. 20,000 to the tow truck driver. He bought silence like he bought everything else." His legs shook. "Then he made me practice the story, every morning for a month. Nathan was driving. You tried to stop him. Nathan was drunk. Made me repeat it until I believed it myself." "Jesus Christ," someone whispered from the crowd. "But I never believed it." Blake continued, words pouring out like poison from a wound. "I wake up hearing the sound. You know what sound a skull makes hitting a windshield? Nathan's skull, I hear it every night. 3 years of therapy couldn't make it stop. The drinking barely dulls it." Madison's laugh cut through the night, high and hysterical. "You think you're the only one carrying guilt we all knew. Everyone here knew something was wrong with that story. Nathan Walsh, who nursed one beer all night at every party, Nathan, the designated driver since sophomore year. We all knew. And we all kept quiet because Richard Harrison owned this town." Her boyfriend tried to grab her arm. "Madison, stop." She yanked away from him, mascara running in black streams. "No, I'm done being quiet. Done pretending." She faced Kai directly. "You want to know what your revenge looks like? It looks like Blake drinking himself to death. It looks like me married at 22 to the first man who showed interest after graduation. Because word got around about what I did to you. How I was cruel for sport. Charles, my ex-husband, he knew exactly what kind of person I was. That's why he chose me. Because broken people are easier to break further." She pulled up her sleeve, revealing old scars along her forearm. "He didn't just hit me, Kai. He studied how to hurt me. Learned it from watching videos of us tormenting you. Said if I could dish it out, I could take it. 4 years of marriage before I got out. 4 years, the same length of time we tortured you. Poetic justice. Right." Tyler Sherman stepped forward from where Williams had been blocking his escape. "We all got what we deserved. My cocaine side business, Blake's dad set it up. Used me to supply his country club friends. When the FBI took him down, they got me too. 3 years in federal prison. You know what they do to suburban drug dealers in federal prison?" His voice dropped. "Every day. I thought about you, Kai. How you survived 4 years of hell. It kept me alive." Josh Crawford was crying now, his hype man persona completely shattered. "My daughter's 8. Last month, she came home crying because kids were bullying her at school. Called her fat, stupid, worthless. When I went to complain, the principal pulled up a video. The cafeteria incident. Our cafeteria incident. Someone had posted it online with our names. The principal asked me how I could protect my daughter from bullying when I was famous for being a bully myself. Mrs. Morrison stepped forward, her aged face drawn with decades of guilt. I need to say something. The administration didn't just threaten my pension. Richard Harrison had photographs fabricated but convincing, suggesting an inappropriate relationship with a student. He said he'd release them if I testified about what I saw. I chose my reputation over Kai's safety. I've been dying inside ever since. We all have, said another voice. Patricia Wells, now a nurse, stepped into the circle. I was there. I saw everything and did nothing, laughed along, posted videos, liked the comments. We were children, but that's no excuse. We were old enough to know better. Blake had sunk back to his knees, but this time in pure exhaustion rather than drama. After Dad went to prison, after everything came out, I tried to make it right. Went to Nathan's grave every night, drunk, usually, begging forgiveness from a stone. He looked up at Kai. Ryan found me there 3 months ago with Dad's gun in my mouth. My little brother, in his wheelchair, had to talk me out of eating a bullet. The war hero brother I'd mocked for joining the army. He saved me from myself. Ryan's voice was steady but thick with emotion. I told him Nathan wouldn't want that. Nathan died to prevent death, not cause more of it. But Blake's been spiraling ever since. This reunion, this sick presentation, it was his way of returning to when he felt powerful, before the guilt ate him alive. It's not just Blake, said a new voice. Marcus Hendricks, the mayor's son who'd approved the helicopter landing, stepped forward. My parents were driving home with my baby sister that night. The Hendersons. Nathan saved us by grabbing that wheel. My whole family owes our lives to Nathan Walsh, and we've spent 10 years letting his name be dragged through mud because speaking up would have meant crossing Richard Harrison. The confessions came faster now. A dam burst of collective guilt. Parents in the crowd admitted to encouraging their children to distance themselves from Kai. Teachers confessed to grading him harder, excluding him from opportunities. Business owners acknowledged refusing him after-school jobs at Richard Harrison's suggestion. We created a system, said Dr. Sarah Jennifer Park, the school counselor who'd retired early. A system designed to break certain kids while elevating others. Kai wasn't the only victim, just the most visible. Tommy Chen killed himself junior year. Sarah Martinez developed an eating disorder that nearly killed her. Michael Foster joined a gang looking for the belonging we denied him. We sacrificed children on the altar of social hierarchy. Blake suddenly screamed a raw, primal sound that made everyone step back. I can't breathe. It's too much, the weight of it all. Nathan, God, Nathan, I'm so sorry. He clawed at his collar, tearing the bow tie away. Every good thing in my life turned to ash. My marriage, gone. My job, gone. My father, died in prison. Everything I touched died because I killed the best person I knew. Blake, Kai said quietly, kneeling beside him again. Listen to me. No. Blake pushed him away. You don't understand. After Nathan died, I became everything he would have hated. I hit Madison when she tried to leave me senior year of college. I supplied drugs to kids at the country club. I drove drunk 12 more times. Only luck kept me from killing others. I became a monster because it was easier than facing what I'd done. The crowd had gone completely silent except for muffled sobs. The weight of collective tragedy pressed down like a physical force. These weren't just the consequences of teenage cruelty. They were the spiraling devastation of unaddressed trauma, spreading like cancer through an entire community. You want to know the worst part? Blake's voice had dropped to almost a whisper. Nathan forgave me. I found a note in my locker after graduation. Must have put it there before that night. It said, I know you're struggling. I know the pressure your dad puts on you. It doesn't excuse what you've done, but I understand it. Get help, Blake, before you destroy yourself. Madison sobbed harder. He left me one too. Said he saw the bruises I blamed on volleyball. Knew Blake was hitting me. Left the number for a women's shelter. I threw it away. Too proud to admit I needed help. The autumn wind picked up, sending leaves swirling through the assembled crowd like memories made tangible. In the distance, Headlights appeared on the country club's long driveway, a single car approaching with deliberate slowness. "That's her," someone whispered. "That's Nathan's mom." Grace Walsh's sedan pulled up beside the helicopters, looking small and humble next to the military machines. She emerged slowly, dignified in a simple black dress, carrying a box in her arms. The crowd parted for her like the Red Sea, respect and shame creating a pathway. She walked directly to Blake, still on his knees, and stood before him with the bearing of a judge and the eyes of a mother. "Hello, Blake," she said simply. "It's time we talked about my son." The night held its breath. 200 people frozen in witness to a reckoning 10 years in the making. Grace Walsh had come not for revenge, but for something more powerful truth that could either damn or redeem them all. Grace Walsh set the box down carefully on the grass, her movements deliberate and measured. The crowd remained frozen, watching this moment unfold with the weight of a decade's worth of guilt pressing down on them. She opened the box and pulled out a manila envelope, thick with documents, and a small tablet device. "Before we begin," Grace said, her voice carrying the authority of truth long suppressed, "I need everyone here to understand something. I've spent 10 years investigating my son's death, not for revenge, but for understanding. What I found changes everything you think you know." She handed the envelope to Kai. "Nathan wrote you more than one letter, sweetheart. This one was meant to be read publicly if something happened to him. He was very specific about that." Kai's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. Inside, Nathan's familiar handwriting covered several pages, dated 1 week before his death. Kai looked at Grace, who nodded encouragement, then began to read aloud. "To whoever needs to hear this, especially Blake Harrison. By the time this is read, I'll be gone. I know this because I've been watching Blake deteriorate for months. The cocaine his father supplies him, the alcohol that's become his breakfast, the rage that explodes when he thinks no one important is watching. He's going to kill someone soon. The pattern is clear to anyone willing to see it. I've decided that someone will be me. This isn't suicide. This is a calculated choice. Blake drives the same route every Friday night after Tyler's parties down Mountain Road, past the farmer's market intersection, toward the country club. It's a deadly route when driven drunk. The Hendricks family drives home from dinner at 8:30. The Martinez family returns from their shop at 9. The Washingtons bring their newborn home from the hospital around 10. One of these families will die if I don't act. I've tried everything else. Talked to Blake's father, he laughed and offered me cocaine. Talked to the police, they said to call when something actually happens. Talked to Blake himself, he broke my nose and threatened to destroy Kai worse than ever if I interfered again. So I'll get in the car. I'll wait until we're past the residential area. Then I'll grab the wheel. Force us off the road where no innocents can be hurt. Physics suggests I won't survive the passenger seat in that scenario. I've made my peace with that. Blake, when you read this, and you will, because you'll need to understand, know that I forgive you. You're not evil. You're a damaged boy with a monster for a father, medicating pain with cruelty and substances. Your father's abuse made you an abuser. The cycle has to stop. I trained Frost to find Kai if something happens to me. The commands are specific. Find your brother. And Frost will track Kai's scent across hell itself. I've been preparing Frost for months, using Kai's jacket, teaching him protection protocols. Kai will need a guardian when I'm gone, and Frost is loyal enough to transfer that loyalty from me to him, to the town of Cedar Ridge. You failed us all. You let Richard Harrison turn children into weapons against each other. You watched Kai Renders suffer for 4 years and did nothing. You celebrated the bullies and ignored the victims. My death is partly on your hands. To Madison, Tyler, Josh, and the others. You're victims too, in your way. Richard Harrison corrupted this entire town, made cruelty profitable and kindness weak. But you had choices. You could have been better. Maybe my death will teach you what your lives haven't, that actions have consequences that money can't erase. To Kai, brother, you'll blame yourself. Don't. This isn't about you. This is about preventing murders that haven't happened yet. Live the life I won't get to live. Become the man this town tried to prevent you from being. Save people. Like I'm trying to save people now. Make my sacrifice mean something. Mom, I'm sorry. I know this will destroy you. But you raised me to protect others. To stand between evil and innocence. This is me standing. Take care of Frost until he finds Kai. Tell everyone the truth. No matter what Richard Harrison tries to buy. Tonight, Tyler Sherman is throwing his graduation party. Blake will drink too much, he always does. Around 11, he'll head for his car. I'll be waiting. I'll get in. Try one more time to take his keys. When he refuses, and he will, I'll let him drive until we're clear of houses. Then I'll act. By the time you read this, it will be done. Blake will survive. The driver's side has airbags. I've disabled the passenger airbag in his car over the past week. My death will look like an accident, but this letter proves otherwise. I choose this. I choose to save innocent families. I choose to stop Blake from becoming a murderer. I choose to give him a chance at redemption through surviving what should destroy him. Tell Frost I said goodbye. Tell him to protect Kai like he protected me. With love and purpose. Nathan Walsh. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the wind had stilled. Blake had collapsed completely, curled on the ground in a fetal position, keening like a wounded animal. Madison had both hands over her mouth, her entire body shaking. The crowd stood frozen, processing the revelation that Nathan's death hadn't been an accident, or even a drunk driving incident. It had been a calculated sacrifice. Grace pulled out the tablet, her voice steady despite the tears on her face. There's video evidence. Nathan installed a hidden camera in Blake's car the week before. He wanted proof of what really happened. She turned the screen toward the crowd and hit play. The grainy footage showed Blake stumbling to his car, Nathan intercepting him. The brief fight where Blake threw punches while Nathan merely deflected. Then Nathan getting in the passenger seat, his face calm with terrible purpose. The audio was clear. Blake, get out of my car, you self-righteous prick, Nathan. Not happening. Drive. Blake, let's see how this ends. Blake, I'll fucking kill you, Nathan. No, you won't. But you might kill the Hendricks family if I don't stop you. The video showed the car swerving dangerously. Blake clearly intoxicated beyond function. Then, at exactly the spot Nathan had predicted past all the houses. Near the embankment, Nathan's hands shot out, grabbing the wheel, yanking it hard to the right. Blake's scream, the tree rushing toward the passenger side. The impact. Grace stopped the video before the aftermath. Nathan was conscious for 3 minutes after the crash. The camera kept recording. Her voice broke slightly. He used those 3 minutes to hide this memory card in Frost's collar. The dog was thrown from the back window but crawled back, and Nathan managed to secure the evidence before he died, protecting everyone. Ryan finished. Tears streaming down his face. My brother would have killed an entire family. Nathan knew it. Nathan stopped it. Kai stood slowly, still holding Nathan's letter. There's more. Things you all need to know. He looked at his squad, who nodded encouragement. Ryan, you asked how I knew to save you in Afghanistan. You were in the wrong place at the wrong time during an ambush. But I recognized your voice over the radio. You sounded just like Blake when he's scared. I couldn't save Nathan, but I could save you. Ryan's sob cut through the night. You saved me because I reminded you of the person who tormented you. I saved you because Nathan would have wanted me to. He believed in redemption. Even for Blake, especially for Blake's family, who didn't choose their connection to him. Jennifer Thompson stepped forward. There's something else. Madison, your ex-husband Charles Brennan, he was on our target list in Afghanistan. Arms dealer, supplied weapons to insurgents. Kai was supposed to call in an airstrike on his compound, but he noticed children's toys in the surveillance photos. Turned out Brennan was using a school as a shield. Kai refused the strike, went in on foot instead, saved 18 kids. Madison's legs gave out. Charles is dead. Arrested, life in prison. The investigation revealed his domestic violence history. You're listed as a victim in the federal case. There's restitution waiting for you. Williams spoke up next. Every soldier here, we're alive because of Chief Renders. Morrison, Chen, Martinez, Cooper. Every one of us has a story about Kai choosing the harder right over the easier wrong. He learned that from Nathan. Grace pulled something else from the box, a leather collar, worn and familiar. Frost, come here, boy. The German shepherd approached slowly, his training warring with recognition. Grace carefully unbuckled his current collar and showed the crowd the inside, a small pocket, nearly invisible, containing 2 sets of dog tags. Nathan's tags, she said, holding them up. And these others. They're not military standard. Kai looked closer and gasped. They're mine. The ones Nathan had made for me as a joke freshman year, when he said I was drafted into his army of 2 against the world. Frost has been carrying both all these years. Nathan trained him to bring these to me if anything happened to both of you, but also... Grace pulled out a small device, this GPS tracker. Nathan knew that wherever Frost went after his death would be where you were. Kai, he wanted to make sure I could always find you, always know you were safe. Frost's behavior suddenly made sense, the way he'd always faced northeast when settling for the night towards Cedar Ridge, the way he'd whine at exactly 11:47 p.m., the time of the crash, the way he'd saved Kai in Afghanistan by sensing an IED in the exact manner Nathan had trained him to detect Blake's cocaine stash. The invitation, Kai said suddenly, understanding flooding through him. Ryan, you said you arranged for me to get it. But how did you know? I didn't just arrange the invitation, Ryan admitted. I wrote it, made it cruel enough that you'd have to come, have to prove them wrong. But I also made sure certain people would be here. Mrs. Morrison, who could testify about the administration's cover-up, the Hendricks family, who Nathan saved, Grace, who had all the evidence. He looked at his brother, still curled on the ground. Blake didn't plan a humiliation. He's been too drunk to plan anything. I set this whole thing up using his name because I knew the only way to save my brother was to force the truth into the open. You orchestrated all of this, Tyler asked, shocked. With Grace's help, Ryan confirmed. She knew Blake was dying from guilt. I knew Kai was the only one who could offer the forgiveness Blake needed. We had to bring everyone together, had to make the truth undeniable. Grace knelt beside Blake, lifting his head gently. Your father is dead. Blake, not from the FBI arrest from pancreatic cancer. But before he died, he wrote this. She handed him a sealed envelope. His confession, everything he did, everyone he paid off, every crime he committed. He wanted you to know that Nathan's death wasn't your fault, it was his. He raised you broken, then acted surprised when you shattered. Blake's shaking hands opened the letter, but he couldn't read through his tears. Grace read it for him. Son, I destroyed you before you had a chance. I fed you cocaine at 16. I taught you cruelty was strength. I covered up your crimes instead of letting you face consequences and learn. Nathan Walsh's death is on my hands, not yours. I turned you into a weapon, then blamed you when you fired. I'm sorry. Get help. Get better. Don't die like I'm dying alone, hated, and deservedly so. Richard Harrison. The truth had all come out now. Every secret revealed. Every lie exposed. Nathan hadn't been a victim. He'd been a hero who chose his death to save others. Blake hadn't been powerful. He'd been a damaged child turned into a monster by a worse monster. The town hadn't been protecting tradition. They'd been enabling evil through cowardice. And Kai hadn't survived despite them all. He'd survived to save them all, just as Nathan had intended. Kai stood in the center of the broken circle, looking at the wreckage of human lives scattered across the country club lawn. Blake still knelt in the grass, his father's confession clutched in trembling hands. Madison stood alone, her perfect makeup destroyed, her date long since fled. The crowd of 200 had become witnesses to truth rather than accomplices to cruelty. "Listen to me," Kai said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who'd commanded soldiers through hell. "All of you, we have a choice to make right now. We can stay trapped in this cycle of guilt and revenge, or we can choose what Nathan died believing in: redemption." He walked to Blake, knelt down, and gripped his shoulders. "Blake, look at me. Look at me." When those broken eyes finally met his, Kai spoke with deliberate clarity. "I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because Nathan already forgave you. Because holding on to hate is drinking poison and expecting others to die. Because Frost here," the dog moved between them, tail wagging slowly, "shows me every day that survival isn't about forgetting pain but transforming it into purpose." Blake sobbed harder. "I don't want forgiveness. I want to die. I want Nathan back." "Nathan is back," Grace said firmly, moving to kneel beside them. "He's in every life he saved that night. He's in Kai's service to others. He's in Ryan's courage despite his injuries. He's even in your guilt. Blake, it proves you're still human, still capable of change." Kai stood, pulling Blake to his feet with surprising strength. "You're going to rehab tomorrow. Ryan's already made the arrangements. I'm going to drive you there myself." "Why?" Blake's voice cracked. "Why would you?" "Because Nathan would. Because you're not your father. Because redemption is possible if you fight for it." Kai turned to Madison. "That goes for you too." Madison approached cautiously, like someone approaching a wild animal. "Kai, God, I don't even know how to apologize for—" "Then don't," Kai interrupted. "Apologies are words. I want action. There's a women's shelter in Denver that needs volunteers. Survivors who understand domestic violence from the inside. Your story could save lives. You think I could help anyone, after what I did?" Jennifer Thompson stepped forward. "Ma'am, the worst sufferers often become the best healers. They recognize the pain others try to hide." Grace stood, addressing the crowd with the bearing of a prophet. "Cedar Ridge has been poisoned for too long. Richard Harrison is dead, but his legacy of cruelty lives on unless we actively destroy it. I'm establishing the Nathan Walsh Foundation, anti-bullying programs in schools, addiction support, scholarship funds for kids like Kai who deserve better than this town gave them." Mayor Hendricks stepped forward. "The city will match any funds raised. Nathan saved my family. It's the least we can do." Ryan wheeled himself to his brother. "Blake, I'm not giving up on you. Nathan didn't give up on you even when dying. You're my brother. We're going to get through this together." Blake collapsed against Ryan's wheelchair, both brothers crying now, holding each other in a way they hadn't since childhood, before Richard Harrison's poison had corrupted everything it touched. "There's something else," Kai announced. "I'm establishing a veteran support center here in Cedar Ridge. For soldiers dealing with PTSD, addiction, reintegration. Blake, when you're clean, when you're ready, there's a job waiting for you. You know rock bottom better than most. That knowledge could save veterans heading toward the same cliff." "You'd trust me with that?" Blake asked, disbelieving. "Nathan would. That's enough for me." Grace approached Frost, who'd been watching everything with that one good eye, patient as stone. "Sweet boy, you've done your duty. You brought Kai home. You honored Nathan's last wish." She looked at Kai. "I'd like Frost to retire with me if you're willing. Not to replace you, but to share him. He's our connection to Nathan." Kai nodded, tears finally flowing freely. "He'd like that. He deserves peace after everything." 1 year later, the Nathan Walsh Memorial Center stood where the old Harrison dealership had been, its windows reflecting the Colorado mountains. Inside, the dedication ceremony was beginning. The room filled with faces transformed by truth and time. Blake Harrison, 13 months sober, stood at the podium in a simple suit that actually fit. He'd lost the bloat of alcoholism, gained the steady hands of recovery. "My name is Blake, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm also a counselor here at the center. 13 months ago, I wanted to die. A man I'd tortured for years saved my life instead. He taught me that redemption isn't a destination but a daily choice. In the audience, Madison sat with 3 women from the shelter where she now worked full-time. Her designer clothes had been replaced with simple professionalism. Her brittle beauty transformed into something softer, more real. She caught Kai's eye and smiled, not the cruel smile of their youth, but something genuine. They'd become friends, nothing more, bonding over shared survival rather than attraction. Ryan Harrison actually walked. Having regained partial mobility through experimental treatment, Kai's veteran network had connected him to join his brother at the podium. This center has already helped 47 veterans in our community, people who were heading where Blake was, where Kai could have gone, where too many end up without intervention. Frost lay in a patch of sunlight by the window. 5 puppies tumbling around him, German Shepherd mixes he was helping train as therapy dogs. At 8 years old, his war wounds had earned him a peaceful retirement. Grace sat nearby, reading to a group of children from a book about everyday heroes. The wall behind the podium held 2 photographs: Nathan in his baseball uniform, that eternal smile intact, and below it, a group photo from Afghanistan, Kai and his squad. Frost in the middle, all alive, all saved, all saviors in their own right. Nathan believed everyone deserved a second chance, Kai said, taking the podium last. He died protecting that belief. We honor him not through monuments, but through living that belief every day. Blake's sobriety, Madison's service, Ryan's courage, this town's transformation, that's Nathan's true memorial. Outside, the Apache helicopter sat on permanent display. Transformed from war machine to monument, children climbed on it now, pretending to be heroes, learning that strength meant saving rather than destroying. As the ceremony continued, October sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the impossible made real, a bully redeemed, victims healed, a town transformed, and a young man's sacrifice finally meaning what he'd intended, not an ending, but a beginning of something better. Nathan's sacrifice teaches us that family isn't always blood, it's those who stand by us when the world turns away. Kai found his true family in Frost, a loyal dog who carried his dead handler's love across years of separation. He found brothers and sisters in his military squad, who followed him into his past to help heal old wounds. Even Blake, his tormentor, became family through forgiveness and shared commitment to redemption. Gratitude transforms everything it touches. Kai's gratitude for Nathan's friendship became the foundation for saving 47 lives in combat. Grace's gratitude for her son's sacrifice became a foundation helping hundreds. Blake's gratitude for undeserved forgiveness became the strength to help other addicts. The town's gratitude for Nathan's hidden heroism became the catalyst for confronting decades of enabled cruelty. When we choose gratitude over bitterness, when we recognize that our survival often depends on others' unseen sacrifices, we honor not just the dead but the living. Every person Kai saved, every veteran Blake counseled, every woman Madison helped escape abuse, these ripples started with one young man's refusal to let hatred define him. Have you ever been invited somewhere specifically to be humiliated, like Kai was to his reunion? How did you transform that cruelty into strength?